And we are live. So we'll wait for everyone to roll in. Let me minus out some of my other stuff here that I got going on.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to do this really quick. I've got your channel up here, which I'm going to put into chat.
Your bookshelf is so well organized back there. I love it.
Zone to teach you about.
There we go. My what is?
Your bookshelf is so well organized behind you. It looks awesome. Sorry.
That's about as organized as I can get within my chaos.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Well, for that corner though, that looks great.
Oh, thank you. Actually, I mean, in comparison to a lot of people that I have seen, yes, I'm very organized, but it still seems chaotic to me because I like things to be like really, you know, when I use something, I put it away and then, yes. But I know sometimes people don't do that. You know,
you drive yourself crazy like that.
Creative flow. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I am less productive when I can't easily find my stuff because it's all over the place or it's under here, it's buried under here. But.
You know what the best feeling ever is when you like reach for something and it's just there and you're like, thank you, past self. I appreciate you for thinking ahead.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Hi, long-haired skinny Ito. Oh, hello. And can you see the chat?
I think it live comment. Yes, I can see the chat now.
Okay, perfect.
Hello.
Do you use StreamYard also?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Okay.
Actually, it was on the Cusp Tarot way over on the Cusp Tarot that actually introduced me. So yes, or just by watching the stream.
Okay, perfect. I think that's where I had seen it first too, was why. I was like, oh, that's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I don't know how to look for this kind of stuff.
I was like, you can highlight the what is happening?
How about it? Hi, Jesse.
Hello.
All right. So we're just going to get into it. Guys, we are here with, is it Nee Flowers of, I know it's the Immaterial Garden / Primordial Flowers Tarot, which I love. There's nobody else that has that name, not even close, right?
I'm glad.
I have to say also, I love your background.
Oh, thank you.
It's so good.
This is the third one. If you look at the earlier videos, you'll see the evolution of my like backdrop, but I definitely like this one a lot. Also, I just found that, you know, some people like they do the full green screen and all that stuff. That's cool, but this is like really cost effective. And also I think it just looks nice.
The thing with the green screen that I have found though, is that sometimes like their hair will come out and it looks all funky, like morphine and all that. Yes. So that's, I think, so much better. And you got the lights going on in the background over there.
I have a little, it's like a little battery powered light thing. It's like a DJ light or something. So
look at you.
I like it to be festive. Gotta make it a little fancy.
I love it. It's never boring watching your videos, just saying.
It's good, like seriously, like when I'm like doing the weeklies and stuff, when I'm just like going, I'm like streaming, like conscious stream of consciousness almost. So it's like whatever is gonna come out, it's gonna come out. It's fair game.
Exactly. Now I have a question also,
sure.
Before we get started on all this. For anybody that has not seen Nee's videos on how she does her readings and stuff like that, you are always coming up with so much information about astrology. Do you have like little things up above that you can look at that give you like,
yes, I do. I definitely do have I have a lot of things written down, mostly for the like I have for the Lenormand. I did research and I actually found astrological correspondences for the Lenormand deck. So I have that written down. I have all the dates for like you know, the cusp sign energy dates, the you know, the sign energy dates, and I just have like a little, basically a little board that I made. And actually I'm going to show you what it looks like.
I love that because you know me and my cheat sheets, right?
This is what I made.
Right on.
And actually, you know, it's like you think it would be more eco-friendly if it was like a digital, but honestly, this is effective. And I just update the board when I need to. And I try to be like, it actually forces me to be more concise or more careful about my edits because I'm like, oh, I don't want to print it like more than once. So
yes. So also, you know where you put things. So like, all right, this one might be over here. So you automatically know where to look, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's the thing. I feel like it's like people feel pressured sometimes, like, oh, you have to just be the source of memorized knowledge. And the truth is, a lot of this I use myself to check myself. But honestly, it's like sometimes you're just like having a day where you're like, what is that? You can't even like remember the word broom, and you're like, astrological course, what is this? You know what I mean? Like
that is so friggin' true. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. I'm like, what's that word I'm looking for again? I mean, I've only said it about 1,000,000 times. What is it again?
You're like, I speak well, I'm good.
Exactly. That's what happens as we get older.
Yes.
Or I'd like to think it's because we are taking in so much knowledge that some of it has to go, right? There's got to be room.
That reminds there was a show called, I don't know if you watched it, but there's like 2 seasons of it. There's a show called Alphas, and there's this girl, and one of her, it was like mutants, but it was almost like scientifically sort of like more plausible. But one of the girls, her superpower was she could learn anything that she wanted, but she had to start getting rid of things in order to make room for it. So, and her narrative was cool because she basically got rid of all her personal memories and stuff instead of getting rid of skill sets, which was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to just probably do that too, right? My husband will go, don't you remember this conversation? I'm like, no. Selective memory loss.
Well, I feel like that's one of the one of the unsaid perks about getting older is like you get more of those. You're allowed more of those moments, and then also it's like sometimes you just legitimately forget and you delight yourself over and over again.
My kids have said, "Mom, I know you've told me that about 1,000,000 times already." I'm like, "I'm sorry, okay."
But then again, you're like. Then why do I feel like I need to say it again, though?
Exactly. Exactly. You know so well. Hi, Lavender. All right. So why did you name your channel what you named it?
Okay, well, originally I started with just the Primordial Flowers Tarot because one thing I was exploring was primordial energy, which is kind of like, I didn't want to keep going to this sort of like good and evil sort of polarity. I wanted to go more into these living dynamic forces that are working together, and what I came up with was the primordial, the sacred, and the divine, and that, you know, based off of tarot, based off of other things. So I wanted it to be primordial flowers because I got this idea of it's like you're tending an immaterial garden, you're tending your spiritual garden. So at first it was Primordial Flowers Tarot. Then I was like, no one seems to be able to pronounce this name and they can't spell it. So that's probably not the best if I'm trying to get my name out there, right? So it's like aesthetic be damned, you know, like I got to do something about this, right? But I had developed over the time of my readings, I started naturally just saying this like, welcome to the immaterial garden. And I was like, you know what, if I'm going to keep saying that and that's my phrase, why would I not name my channel that? Right? But yeah, I try to, there'll probably be 2 separate entities later. So Primordial Flowers Tarot will always be about the tarot, about primordials getting, you know, I think about it also as like the essential. So getting to the core of things, getting the flowers are like almost like, primordial flowers being like these wild blossoms of insight, these wild, blossoms of insight. That could be your intuition. It could also be your instincts, or what I like to think about like a blending of the 3, okay? Or the blending of the intuition and the instincts. And then also I bring the intellect in as well. So I have like these like 3 energies coming in. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, but for the later on, I think the Immaterial Garden will continue to be more like expanded spiritual explorations and reflections and stuff. And hopefully, you know, everyone that I'm friends with now and that we're like on this journey together, hopefully we'll continue that journey together. But yeah, that's why I named it that.
I love it. I love it. So how would you label your spiritual path?
I would say that it's pretty much been weird and wonderful. I think it's been pretty random sometimes, and yet it's like that randomness where it's like, you know, you'll do something and you won't think about it for like years, and then all of a sudden, just like for no reason, like you get a synchronicity, and it's like you're like, I don't know, like you're like, now it all makes sense. Like in terms of spirituality, I've had that like Slumdog Millionaire sort of like effect where it's like I didn't recognize or know why all these things had happened, but I would just be put in a situation where suddenly it just made total sense that everything that had happened was getting me to that exact point. I don't know if
that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So were you, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but your path, are you like, are you a certain religion?
Oh,
are
yeah.
you a witch?
Sorry
are
about
you
that.
a pagan?
Well, I started off as a Roman Catholic, and then in my teenage years, I got into Wicca, and I actually practiced my own version of witchcraft with my friends, which we made like a little coven together. After that, I moved on to neo-Gnosticism. Well, actually, I went atheist like between the Roman Catholic and Wicca, because that's what Roman Catholics sometimes that Catholicism can do to you. You go atheist first, and then you're like, you have to find your way back. But then I went Wiccan, then I went to neo-Gnosticism, and then I actually ended up going down the left-hand path. So I actually joined an organization called the Temple of Set. I became a recognized Black magician adept of the Temple of Set, and then and now I've returned back to sort of after everything, kind of bringing all of the things that I've learned into this new path that I'm calling Initiative of the Primordial Mysteries, which is the blending of all of these energies, no matter what they are, together, and understanding how we can tap into them, how we can make them useful to ourselves and to each other. Okay, I guess.
That is friggin' excellent.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. And I love that you said after being a Roman Catholic, you were atheist for a while. My husband was raised Catholic, and he is atheist, very much atheist.
Let me tell you something too. More times than not, if you were raised Roman Catholic, you also freaking love like drag queen shows. You love spectacle. You love pomp. It's true. Like even someone who seems very conservative, like in the background, it's like you're just used to having that sort of you know, our freaking chalices were like gold plated. It's like, you know, the Jesus is like huge and emaciated. It's like they had so much money, right? I just like anyway. It was an interesting experience, but I did love actually. When I was growing up, I was very devout. Like I actually was like a true believer. Like I actually came home crying one day because I wanted to be like a martyr for Jesus. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. How old were you?
I was like, I don't know. I must have been like maybe 6 or 7. I don't know. I remember like when I was like, I, you know, went through CCD, I went through the Stations of the Cross. And for someone who's like you know, or who's empathic or who's like sensitive, going through the Stations of the Cross, let me tell you, I was like basically just like all tears on my knees, like, sweet baby Jesus, I'm sorry. You know, like, but I do like the fact that I enjoy pomp, and I do like the fact that I got a wicked, sarcastic sense of humor. I don't always unleash it, but it's there.
I love that. I'm going to tell you, I never would have thought, just by seeing, and this is where misconceptions come in. Mm-hmm. I would have never thought that you had ever been on the left-hand side. The left-hand path. Never. I mean, because you're always so smiley. But that's just my own stupid misconception. Seriously, though, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, but I love that.
I think a lot of people are really intimidated or scared by the left-hand path. But when you start really looking at the literature, when you start looking into a lot of the ideology, it's like there's different versions, you know. But a lot of it, I would say, mostly like the atheistic or I guess there were theists though in that group. I don't know. I just felt like it was a gathering of very intellectual people who just wanted to intellectually explore in a safe space all of these things that are supposedly taboo, that are supposedly whatever. Because how are you going to know that you're not the type of person who's into that? You know, unless you're like, Exactly.
Yeah.
And I used it as more of like a self-analysis tool. I also thought, you know what, out of all the people, if I'm going to learn magic, if I'm going to learn my shit, if I'm going to learn my
You're
stuff,
okay.
who better than a group of Satanists and Luciferians to rip me a new one if I don't make sense, right? So now it's like other people discuss or they engage with me and I'm like, what do you got? Because honestly, like,
Bring it, right?
if you can be someone as positive and like bubbly as I am and you can become a recognized Black magician, yeah, you know, like there's, I don't know, I just think that's kind
I
of
think
funny.
I've seen that on one of your videos. You're like, what? Or, you know, come at me or something like that. I was like, damn, I like it.
I mean, I'm a pussycat when it comes to like, you know, I don't know. I talk a good game, but honestly, I do feel that way that like, I think that the left-hand path is amazing because you have to learn how to be able to manifest for yourself. You have to learn how to understand those principles of selfishness, because until you understand those principles of selfishness, you will never be the master of them, okay? You've never driven that car. You haven't pushed it to its boundaries. You haven't checked its specs. So how can you possibly have an intimate knowledge of it, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I feel about it. And also, I feel like, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad I had that perspective because it's good for manifesting for yourself. But what I realized there is that what is the point of manifesting just for yourself? Okay. Then I thought about this group of people, and I actually really I have a lot of respect for the Temple of Set. Like I do have a lot of respect for them. I met amazing people through that organization. But you know, it's like, oh shoot, I'm going to give me a second. I might lose it for a second. Sometimes it's like, no, I might have lost that whole thing.
Courtney, one of my really good friends, she is in here also. And she said, yes, oh my God, finally another spirit that understands because she's on the left-hand path. But
Okay, I get
you know what people think, even though she's got this darker appearance and stuff like that.
That was the other thing.
Yeah,
Even in this heavy left-hand path Satanist group, we were talking about community, okay? We were talking about supporting each other. We were talking about making sure that we were showing up for each other, supporting each other's magic, supporting each other's intellectual and spiritual development. And what I thought was, if you took this same mentality and you applied it to people that weren't just thinking about themselves, that's how you change the freaking world. And whether that's idealistic or not, I don't care. But the world is built on ideas, and once we get our foot into the door in terms of reprogramming, in terms of getting new ideas and putting them into circulation, I do believe in the power of that, and I do believe in the power of that's going to bring change. I do believe that.
Yeah, it's like really digging deep into your own shadows so that you can come out back into the light again, right?
Yeah, and at the end, I just found that all paths seem to lead back to the divine. And I'm really trying my best not to use the words light and dark when I talk about these energies, just because, you know, I realized, like, actually I started this a couple months ago, and I realized, you know how freaking hard it is not to reference sadness or depression or evil as darkness? I mean, and then to think like all of our things, all these synonyms and adjectives that I'm using, I'm saying bright and light and whatever. So it's like, I'm trying to think, what are different words? Radiate, illuminate, emanate, right? So those are better.
You know, it still comes down to the same aspect.
Which is true, but the language is very important, because language is essentially, it's whether you recognize it or not, when you are speaking, you are setting intentions, you are setting frequencies, you are setting tones. So what you say actually does matter, even if no one else hears it. Even if you're dealing with, you know, even if you're dealing with, I feel like even if you're dealing with, I feel like there's some things can only be transmitted through the vocal cords. Even if you're deaf, just being in the presence of that vibration that's coming out of that person, that's how it's going to be probably the most healing, or it's going to reach the most people, I guess. Okay.
I agree with that completely. I mean, that's why you can be healed by sound, right?
Yes.
It's because sound is vibration.
Yes.
Frequency. So, yeah.
And we know scientifically you can affect that with, you know, that can affect the body. There are frequencies that can affect the body, that can do damage to the body. Actually, there's something really cool called cymatics. And cymatics is basically the using of this sort of like vibrating table it vibrates at certain frequencies, and then they pour sand on it, and then it actually makes a pattern. And you can actually see these beautiful patterns. And someone actually took this cymatic sort of language, and they're actually using it probably about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They were using it to try to communicate with dolphins, like dolphin language. It sounds weird, but dolphin language, actually, the dolphins, through their frequencies, using the pictures for us and the frequencies for them, they were actually starting to be able to have some sort of communication there, because they could understand like the frequencies, visualizing the frequencies for us into patterns actually made it a lot easier for us to understand how to, like, what the secrets of that, like the Rosetta Stone of it, kind of deal. Anyway.
Talking about that, I am reading this book, almost done with it. And it's and one of the things that she had said to them, they were talking about like crop circles and stuff like that. And when I think of crop circles, before I would think that they were like aliens trying to communicate with us. They actually said that, and some of them were people.
Yeah. Admittedly, yeah.
Actually, the earth was creating these signs trying to communicate with people.
That actually makes so much sense, though, because, again, it's just like, it's vibration, it's, I don't know, frequency, vibration. And that's the thing, though. It's like, it's amazing when you start looking beyond just what I don't know, who thought of that, though? Who thought like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if we could like visually see these frequency patterns? And actually the frequencies, they have consistent patterns. So if you do it at like a 44 point whatever frequency, you'll always see the same pattern that's developed in the sand. So that's freaking awesome.
It's amazing to realize that. That's where like the flower of life or the seed of life, all that stuff comes into play. All this ancient geometry, right?
Yes.
I love it.
I love geometry too. I've actually been thinking a lot about, sometimes I forget about this, but in a lot of ways, astrology, like the astrological wheel and all the calculations, it does remind me a lot of geometry, and especially like the rules of geometry, like the, like when you do the proofs or like, the principles or the rules, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, very cool stuff there.
I agree. And it's math. It's math too.
I suck at math though.
Language.
Are you good at math?
I mean, I am for the most part, except I am not good at algebra.
Oh my God.
And the reason I'm not good at algebra is because I always forget the way that you're supposed to do it. So you're supposed to do these first, then you're supposed to do these. There's so many rules, so much to remember. It's like, oh, hell with it. Unless I have all of the little cheat sheet that right there, then I can figure it out. Other than that, it's like, forget it.
See, you're in a better space than I am, because I actually, I'm terrible at math, terrible at algebra. I can remember all of the rules. I cannot do computation. It's like, seriously, like, and it's, do you know how frustrating it is when I was taking math, when I had like the formulas in front of me, I understood all of the principles, and somehow it's like, you forget to carry one, you forget to carry a one, and then suddenly it's all explodes in your face.
But you know what's really funny with that too? My husband graduated high school with just general math, no algebra, none of the above. And now he is a finance manager and has been for umpteen years. And I swear it's funny. He's Pisces too. So he's like really intuitive. Okay. Really intuitive. Even if he doesn't say he believes in all that, right? We will go to the store. We play this game, grocery shopping. And so we're all guessing what it is. How much do you think it is? What's the bill? What's the bill? I swear he always gets it so damn close. We don't even have a chance.
Oh my gosh.
He'll just be joking around and pull a figure out of the air. And it is exactly that figure. People are looking at him like, oh, you must be psychic, or you must be pulling from the Akashic records or whatever. He's just like, whatever.
It's just because he doesn't want it. That's sort of like stuff, that phenomenon kind of reminds me of like of cats. It's like if you give it too much attention, if you want it too much, it's just not going to happen. If you're someone who's like, I couldn't give an F about that spiritual stuff, suddenly you're like, oh yeah, but I can uncannily. It's coincidence. Yeah, I can guess all these numbers all the time, and I can blah blah blah.
Exactly. So,
Hello everyone again.
Courtney says, yes, most of the people I talk with, even if not fully understanding, they still have supported me, and Rachele has always been lovely to me. Oh, hi, Cindy.
Hello.
Yes, I use frequency a lot lately, and I have found I can call spirits towards me using it. I absolutely believe that.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Even the different realms, like the she. I mean, the she I keep talking about because that's what I'm reading right now, really and really into. It's amazing, right? But
I love that.
they're like on a different plane than us, which is a frequency, a different frequency, right? That's all it is.
That is freaking awesome.
Amazing.
That actually makes sense too. It also makes sense why maybe like some, why, for instance, like some metals or some materials, why some energies seem to favor those metals or whatever, like, or a bell made out of that metal or whatever. But it would make sense because it's that frequency that's calling them in, that's bringing, or that's inviting them in, or that's allowing them to like focus in on that in order to have communion with you or to engage with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you believe we're only on question number 2?
Oh my gosh. This is fun.
It's always perfect when you can find somebody that you communicate with so well, you know?
Well, I feel like we're having like a slumber party, like we're just like gabbing away.
Oh yeah, I love these. I seriously do. I have to be in the mind frame for them, but especially when you find that person that you just connect with, it's perfect.
Yes.
So I was going to say, were you raised in this path or did you veer off from your family? But
I totally veered off from my family. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, to be honest, like it's weird because I was raised Roman Catholic. I went to Sunday school, but I feel like I was almost like the designated, like no one else wants to go to church. So you have to like, so, you have to show up so that we could save everyone's soul kind of thing.
Oh
But
my gosh.
later on in life, I did realize me and my father would have conversations. Like he was just he's pretty much an atheist. My father is like very pessimistic. Like he just prepares for the worst in every situation. But he's got that old philosophy, like, if I prepare for the worst and I don't expect anything, then I'll never be disappointed. Which is like, that's no way to live, but
That's like a grumpy old person. I'm sorry, but that's just like, anytime you talk. It reminds me of the dad on that 70s show.
oh my gosh, Red, yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. So do you feel like on your path now that you are supported by your family?
No, and honestly, I'm going to be honest, I actually cut ties with my family. I permanently cut ties about a year ago. I permanently deleted my Facebook and I cut ties with basically everyone in my life except for my fiance. It just got to a point where, I don't know, I feel like I was developing in terms of like my gifts. I was going through a lot of stress in terms of work, in terms of social groups, in terms of whatever. I don't know. I just asked myself, what happens if I just disconnect from everything? And what I found was I was only going to do it for like a month. And I swear after that month, I was like, what have I missed out on? What do I feel like has been, taken away from me in this moment? And I felt like nothing. And I thought about those people. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but that might sound cold, but it's like, I thought about my family. I thought about my old friends or supposed friends and all this stuff. And I was like, after a month of not communicating, what have I lost? Absolutely nothing. Now, I did make sure that with my parents and my mom actually passed away. I thought it was like about 10 years ago, but it's actually been like 13 years now. It's just, time just kind of like flies by. I just kind of feel like, and I've always been like kind of just trying to move forward. But, my father, we tried to get on board, but I finally realized that we have a really weird situation. My father is married to, he remarried after my mom. Okay. My stepmother did not really enjoy me and I didn't really enjoy her. And I can understand. I was kind of a shitty adolescent, and I didn't go to their wedding. Like I just was kind of like, she was also very, whatever. But she and my father, the only person that I do miss really is my brother, because her and my father had a wonderful son and he is just such a beautiful person. But it's like, my dad always kind of, I know that sounds weird, but always kind of put me in the middle, almost like it was like I was the other woman. Like, no, and I'm not joking. And actually that's where my stepmother went with it. She basically said, "You're not blood." She said, "I don't feel comfortable you spending time alone with someone that you're not blood related to." And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. You don't ever have to do that again.
Wow.
But, and it's not because I'm mad, but it's honestly, it's because I feel like it causes but that is the burden. Yeah. I do feel like it does cause my dad a lot more burden. And to be honest, it's not even her. I actually respect her. She's such a good mom to my brother. My brother, he's on the spectrum, and she has worked very hard on his development. She is one hell of an effing mother. Whether or not she was nice to me, she is a great mother. My dad is actually very lucky to have her. And the truth is that she's going to take care of him. And if she wants to get her way, she's allowed to get her way because that's her family. She's allowed to get her way because she's the one who's putting in the work every day. And whatever I can do to stay out of that. But I did make sure to send my father a message just to let him know that I do love him. It's not because I'm mad at him. It's, I don't ever want him to have any regrets about me. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I have to move forward with what I feel like is the best direction for myself. And, that's, sometimes we talk about like all this like karmic work and like all this stuff during our readings, but the truth is like I actually experienced this. It's like a year ago, everything changed for me. I cut ties with everything. I thought I was losing my mind, and now it's like a year later. Actually, I started my channel on June 20th.
Wow. So yeah.
Yes, but 1 year later, and it's like so. What I was gonna say there. Oh yeah, then the world decided to like lose its freaking mind as well. And it's like now I'm like going through like all these things that we're processing together. It's like sometimes I feel bad that I'm so okay right now, but it's only because there is just nothing left to shake in me. Does that make sense? It's like I'm just everything. Like I quit my job. I like everything just completely. I just stopped. I just said, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I don't know. I've just been so lucky. Like I've been so lucky, and I really love the fact that I just had the guts to do that. And honestly, I have to give a lot of props to my fiance, my divine masculine, because honestly, he has been so supportive, and we've really gone through a very healing journey together. And both of us have done things. We both like. We went through kind of like a runner chaser, and we would, like I was more of the runner, and in most situations, just because, usually people that are smothered a bit in their childhood, they become like the runner, and the people that are like, kind of neglected, they tend to become the chaser, right?
Yeah.
But our interactions together, what I realized is that at the end of the day, I know that no matter what happens between me and my divine masculine, I know that he will never put me in a situation where he will not give me less than I deserve. He will never put me in a situation where I am not okay, where I'm not going to be safe. And I know this, because through our experiences together, it's like he has been nothing but absolutely supportive, even in times when he was definitely not getting anything that he wanted from me. And that act of devotion, that actually changed me. And I don't know, I am thankful, though, for that purification process, because the truth is that with all of that time that I saved, not dealing with everyone else's problems, not troubleshooting everyone else's life, I was able to actually create something of my own. And I feel like this is going to be something lasting. So, and I get to hang out with awesome people like you.
Thank you. But, here's the thing. Would you teach your children, if they keep putting their hand on the burner and it hurts, to keep doing it? Isn't that what we do sometimes in toxic relationships, just because they are family?
Yeah. That is true, because, and I just feel like you have to be so careful there, because, at the end of the day, it's like, yes, they are your family, and you should give respect or be grateful, whatever. But, that doesn't necessarily obligate you to each other. What obligates you to each other, what makes a real family, is all of the things that you go through together, all of the things you are willing to endure together as a family, as a unit, okay? Everything else, blood, everything else, like how long you've known, all of that stuff, it goes out the window when it comes down to, is this someone who, if we were in the zombie apocalypse, would this person have my back? And would this be the kind of person that if they got bit, they would hide it?
That's funny.
They just
always
shut
just
down.
the apocalypse, doesn't it? That's funny. Oh, I love that. So, do you feel a stronger connection with any certain elements?
You know, it's so funny. I think, I don't know, I love all the elements. I do like kind of, I don't know, I've connected with them, but I was actually looking at my birth chart, including all my house placements, my planet placements, and the North Node. I actually have every sign in my chart, every sign energy in my chart. So it's like, it kind of makes sense to me why I freaking love all of the freaking elements. I would say the one that I usually, that have the least, I don't know, it's so weird because I would say cups, because honestly, like, I spend a lot of time thinking about, like, the other three make a lot more sense. The cups is something that I maybe originally had tried to I tried to avoid. When I was younger, I was kind of raised, like, my mom was really hardcore. My mom was a Capricorn as well. Probably a Capricorn in like shadow energy though. So, but she did raise me like, you know, if you're going to cry, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Or, you know, like, she raised me really much like a Spartan. I feel like I like to pretend that my mom thought she was like Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. That's who my mom was to me at the time. And I bless her soul, I know that she did what she did for the reasons that she did, but she had a lot of demons. She did struggle with alcohol addiction and that sort of thing. You know, just very, very archetypal Capricorn. But the problem is that when you're a Capricorn and you meet a Capricorn and you're trying to dominate a Capricorn to your will, you have to be at a level that is more advanced than that Capricorn, or that Capricorn will do everything, become the stubborn goat. It's like, we take instruction very well. We are willing to work and compromise. Just don't say stupid things to her. Like, don't say stupid things to us. And also if you have a title, if you have a status, you better show up for that. You better have that expertise, that knowledge, that skill, that finesse.
We're going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not gonna do it.
Exactly. Yeah, Capricorns can be known for having very high morals and standards, and making other people feel like they have to reach those as well, which can be not as good sometimes.
Yes.
But it's because we're always the constant, always trying to move up that mountain, get up that mountain, right?
You're like,
I'm not doing this. Are very watery too, though.
Oh yeah, that was back to the elements. Yeah, but first, the water is what I neglected for pretty much like the first half of my life, or it just overwhelmed me so much. I mean, I have an Aries moon, so it's like everything that I feel is just like amplified, like to the 10th. It's like turning it to 11. It always makes me think about this is Final Tap, but turning it to 11. So the realm of cups has been, and also I used to be very skeptical. Okay, I went through this whole like critical thinking, like atheist, like whatever phase. So it's like, I don't know, I just rejected the immaterial, I rejected the spiritual, I rejected the emotional, even though I was, and a lot of that was primarily when I was like on the left-hand path as well, when I was going through just kind of like exploring something different. But yeah, I guess like I avoided the cups, and I was taught, I was raised to kind of like avoid emotions, to like, don't cry, don't fuss, don't be the squeaky wheel, because the squeaky wheel gets attention, and attention is not always a good thing. It's kind of, what I learned as a kid. But I do have so much immense respect and so much reverence for the immaterial, the spiritual, and the emotional now, because, it's like, all of that, and it makes sense because my South Node is in Capricorn and my North Node is in Cancer, so it makes sense that I went from like being really like the Pentacles, like the impure, like swords or pentacles or fire, and then like water just kind of got pushed away. But I don't know. Anyway, I'm I think I'm like rambling at this point. So.
I think honestly though, with that, because I mean, I don't know how many times people heard that growing up. If you want to cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
And my husband did the same thing with my daughter when she was little. I'm like, no. I mean, I put an end to that. But I tried to explain to her, you realize why he does that, because it hurts him to see you like that.
Yes.
So he tries to stop it because he thinks that that's going to, you know, 'cause, I mean, he just adores my daughter. And, but, you know, kids can be irrational and emotional and,
Oh yeah,
you know,
you're
so-
human.
Exactly. But that's how bad things happen when you tell somebody, don't feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so then they put it in deep inside and then start dealing with it in different ways, which is
Yes.
never good. So let somebody, but knowing where that comes from, that's the real thing. Understanding why people do that.
Yes.
That's the real thing there.
I just know that for like the first like 30 years of my life, I just I found it very difficult to actually cry in front of other people, to actually feel any emotion that was heavier or depression or sadness or whatever. That was very hard for me because, you know, I understand why my mom's mentality was, if you show weakness, the world will destroy you. And I feel like to some degree, I really thank her for that. I thank her for that because my whole life has, you know, everything that I'm doing is a testament to how radical vulnerability is not something that will get you destroyed. It is something that will help to change the world, that will help you transmute yourself. Other people are involved in the journey together. You transmute the energies for each other. You know, I don't know.
No, I mean, that is exactly right. You know, it was, for me, it is a struggle because being a Capricorn is very practical. And then my rising sign is a Cancer, which is very emotional, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think it's helped keep me balanced. And my moon is a Virgo. So that's where the organization and, you know, all that crap comes from. But yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it's so funny because you have both cardinal and you have mutable signs. You know, Virgo's mutable, you have Capricorn. I actually have a Sagittarius as my rising, so I have mutable as well. I always think it's funny because sometimes we can think that the mutable sign energy is going to be like the innovator, but actually what I found is that it's the cardinal sign energy, which is the initiator, the innovator. Okay, we do it because we enjoy, for the love of creation, right?
Yeah.
Mutable sign placements, it's for survival. It's they have to constantly evolve and adapt because it's for survival. And for us, it's more about, you know, like, we need that feeling of being in control and creating and pushing something forward, bringing something into the world, which is great because for Capricorn energy, you know, we're the Queen of Pentacles energy, and the queens typically are the cardinal sign placements or representative cardinal sign placements. Also because the queens represent the water. It's interesting because that is like, you know, you get Capricorn, the goatfish, which is really interesting because it being the queen and the pentacles, that is the embodiment of the water and earth. But the illusion that Capricorns have to break is that that there's a separation between those two, and they don't have, you know, that they can't interplay, that they have to be mutually exclusive, that they can't actually overlay and you know, kind of like work with each other and, I don't know, dance with each other, play with each other.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I clearly do not know even half of what you know when it comes to astrology. I am learning, and I am on a mission to learn, but I find it all very fascinating. And I do find when somebody tells me now what like their moon sign is, I'm like, oh, that explains so much, you know? It's funny.
There's this game. There's this guy who plays video games. It's Mathis Gaming, and it's so funny because I was watching him, and after a while, I was like, "Is this guy a Taurus?" Just based off like all the decisions he was making.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite season of the year?
Yes, I love autumn. I'm getting a little bit of feedback on my side. Let me see if I can pull this down a little bit. Can you hear me?
Is that any better?
Oh yeah, that's better. Got it.
I'll just try not to be so animated.
Sorry, I'm getting too excited for it.
No,
too excited for technology.
I definitely, that's what I was talking about. I have a big mouth and I don't know how to turn my volume down on my mic. That's what I how to do.
I got lost. Where are we again?
About favorite season of the year?
Oh yeah, autumn, absolutely. I just like the the gist of, I don't know, I love the like the ambiance of it. I kind of just love the temperature. I think it's like perfect temperature. And I also just love that idea of like it's both a reminder of your mortality, because it's like the leaves fall, everything's withering and dying or hitting into winter. But at the same time, it's so beautiful. Nothing looks as vibrant, nothing looks as beautiful like when it's just like right before the leaves are about to fall, and just like, I don't know, I just love it. It's like mortality, but it's positive.
Yeah, it's like the final push, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do want to say that Courtney said same. I wondered if the ancient ones that I work with had something to do with it, though, because demons will take things out and help you with what doesn't serve you. Yeah.
Yeah.
She also said triple Scorpio. Oh, and hi, Jessica.
Ooh, triple Scorpio. That's awesome.
And Venus is in Sag. So how
did that happen? I feel like, get with the picture, Sag.
Yeah. So her and I have talked too about astrology. She's pretty good with all that stuff too.
Oh, I love that.
So do you use divination?
Yeah.
What all types do you use?
Aside from cards, I mean, I do tarot, I do Lenormand, I do oracle cards, but aside from that, I actually really like cloud gazing. It's like one of my favorites. Sometimes before I do my weekly readings, sometimes I go down to smoke, because honestly, I just like struggle with quitting smoking. But what's beautiful is like, I'll look up at the clouds of the sky, and like, I'll get like messages for like the weekly message, or I don't know. I really like the way that happens. One time, the most vivid one I ever got, though, is so funny. I got, it was like a dog. It was definitely someone's like adorable, like little dog. And I was like, here's the colors or whatever. But I just like, I don't know. It was such a strong message. And actually, I think someone from that weekly actually was like, they were saying it was similar to the dog that they had, or that they had, I guess, in the past or something.
Wow. Amazing. I have always liked looking at the clouds. That's something that I've done since I was a little kid, and it actually looked for signs in the clouds. Nobody ever taught me that. I just looked up and you would see it, you know?
Yeah. It's the same thing with tea leaf reading, almost, you know, but to the sky.
Yeah. But I mean, I have also sat in the bathroom and looked at the tiles on the floor and deciphered messages.
Yes.
Go to the bathroom.
I have those like spontaneous things too, where it's just like, a lot of the time too, music for me, a lot of the time, I know sometimes I've always had a weird relationship with music, because when I listen to music, I actually will see very detailed sorts of like visuals, like in my head, or storylines, or that sort of thing. And I used to think like, oh, I'm just very imaginative. But then I realized like for some people, like the music that comes into my head, or the visuals that I'm seeing, it's like I'm channeling stuff, but I don't necessarily know how you can't really explain it. I've seen other readers, especially like the Ghetto Nun. She's amazing at like channeling like music messages and that sort of thing. But honestly, it's just like, it's hard to explain to people that it doesn't speak to you that in that way, because it's like when you say like, I hear a song in my head, it's almost like I think, at least for me, it's almost like I'm just hearing the song playing out loud, and it's like there's nothing I can do to kind of like stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Or but that was like a development, because before I used to see the pictures, and now as I develop more with my spiritual gifts, as I've done more energy work and that sort of thing, it's like it's developed into something that's kind of, I don't know. I just feel like I think it's still developing. It's still layering, which is kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to continue to do that as we start recognizing it more, paying attention more.
Yes.
So you probably always had it. You probably just didn't realize or wasn't paying attention. You had too many other things on your mind, you know?
Yes.
So.
Well, it's kind of like that, you know, that effect if you get like it's like synchronicities. I feel like if it's like when you buy a new car, okay, or you buy a car and you get like a certain color car, okay, suddenly it's like you start seeing all of the same colored cars around you. It's like that spontaneous synchronicities that happen. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes we overlook those as just randomness. Oh, bye, the turtle lady. But oh, I think I just lost where I was going with that. What was, I can't. Sorry about that.
See you guys later, honey. Erie had to go, Courtney, and so did Cindy.
Okay,
So,
okay, go ahead. Sorry.
so your sun sign is Capricorn then?
Yes, it is. So I have a sun in Capricorn, a moon in Aries, and a rising in Sagittarius. I also, my placements are kind of interesting though, because I actually have Mercury in Capricorn, but then I also have the moon in Pisces in the 3rd house, which is kind of weird because typically moon in Pisces in the 3rd house can mean very emotional, like being able to like elicit emotions, but sometimes isn't very exact or accurate. But I find that because I have that Mercury in Capricorn, it kind of just like forces me to add that element into it.
Is Mercury the planet for communication?
It is
And thought?
communication. It's communication learning as well, how information arrives to you, how it goes out. Also, it can be what I found out about the 3rd house is interesting because it actually it can also be community, okay? Local community, the people that are in your local area, as opposed to the polarity of Sagittarius, which is about going out of your local area into the world, into the global world kind of thing.
Okay. That's pretty wild though. Capricorn, Aries, and Sagittarius.
Yeah. Most of my chart is most of my placements in terms of my my main placements, most of them are either in Capricorn, Sagittarius, or Libra. And then I have the moon in Aries, and I have a lot going on in my chart, but
Yeah. What's funny is I'm a Capricorn. Granted, I mean, some, depending on what site you go to, say I'm on the cusp. Other ones say I'm not, because my birthday's on the 16th of January.
oh,
So whether I'm a cusp for Capricorn, Aquarius.
yes.
But my daughter is a Sagittarius and my son is an Aries. And they are both very fiery personalities.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. So if you have all 3 of those in you, I'm just thinking, holy hell, what the hell kind of arguments do you have with yourself?
Very, very terse and very I would make myself cry with arguments with myself, to be honest. And then I would think about it every night. I'd be like, I'm gonna get them back. You know, I don't know. I had a really weird relationship with my thoughts and my feelings for quite a while. It probably wasn't until I would say not until I was like maybe 28 that I actually started feeling like things were actually like making sense and being more cohesive in terms of like how to manage this energy. But I feel like especially, I mean, the moon in Aries alone is like trying to, it's like you're trying to rodeo ride a tornado kind of thing in terms of like intensity.
Yeah. I mean, because Capricorn and Aries, I think, are very similar to begin with.
Yeah.
Because Aries is very much, just from what I've learned so far, very much that strong leader, you know, that person that initiates those things. But so is a Capricorn.
Yes.
Capricorns are like the entrepreneurs, you know, the politicians.
You know what's funny though? I feel like both of those energies though are representative by queens because both Aries and Capricorn are cardinal signs. So the funny thing is about modalities, and what I found out is that sometimes you may actually resonate more with people in your modality that aren't of the same element than you will with people that are in your same element. Why? Because the fundamental approach to things, or your underlining drive as to what the essence of your energy is trying to achieve, it better melds with people that are in the same wavelength with that. So for me, element became less of the foreground and more of that's the aesthetic, that's the flavoring, that's the overlay. Okay, that's the context and the details. But what really is in terms of the actual energy that's there, I feel like the modalities are so much more important in that respect. I also feel like, you know, if you think about it, then you can think about how your modality, you know, works with your rising or ascendant. Your rising or ascendant is basically how you get things done in the world, okay? How you get things done in society, in the world, and the approach that you like to take. Well, you know, me, it's like I have that cardinal energy of the Capricorn where I want to initiate things. But then what I love about is, and then with the Aries, you know, the moon is like less about that right now, but with my ascendant in Sagittarius, it's like I know that I also have to have some sort of flexibility. I have to have, you know, I like to have outlines. I like to know what's happening. I like to have outlines of things. I like to have, you know, kind of just like a general idea, but then I don't like to be so scripted. Like I like to leave myself pockets of, you know, opportunities for spontaneity and to maybe try something different or to adapt to a situation. But I just feel like it's really important to understand. I know I like the elements. I just feel like at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like those seem to be more like, again, the context details or flavorings, not necessarily what, you know, the bulk of the meal, I guess, in terms of your personality energies. But some people will probably argue with, you know, or not argue, but some people have a different viewpoint, and that's totally cool.
Yeah. So Jessica says she is a sun in Pisces. I know what she said up here. Oh, and a Virgo moon and rising.
Jessica is awesome. Jessica is I consider my friend, but also one of the people that I see a lot of my comments, one of my viewers as well. She has just been such, you know, I just want to say thank you so much, Jessica, because what you do for me in my chat room, just, you know, without having to ask, I really do so much appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much. And I hope that you will watch some more of Amethyst Ascension or Rachelle's videos and sessions, because I think you're going to find a lot of cool information. And I watched the last one that you did too, where you had those tech issues or whatever, but the second time you came on, yeah, I actually watched a pretty big
portion of it.
Yeah. And I just like, I don't know, I really, I was really nervous about like going live and doing interviews and that sort of thing. But I just, you know, it's like you have such a calming sort of energy. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm safe to like chat with you and open up and have a good time. And, you know,
you absolutely are.
But we can also talk about serious things, which is totally like, I love that about you.
Oh, you know, it's the deep stuff that I love to talk about. But I think this stuff is really, really deep. You know, it's not necessarily all the political stuff I like to talk about, because then that can just, you know, hurt feelings and cause arguments and all that. But what I mean by deep is, I don't know as if I could ever, and I don't see you doing this either. I've talked with other friends I've seen other friends that do like professional readings where they work on the hotlines or whatever.
Oh yeah.
They have to do like really fast readings.
Oh wow.
Imagine doing that, because first of all, I don't want to do readings all the time on love, and that's like the majority of them, right? When I come in like yours, and anyone that's in here that has not been to Nee's channel, I definitely suggest it, because her readings are like my favorite out of anybody. I just love them. They're so in depth. But it's because you touch on so many different levels of things. The astrology, the numerology. I think we even throw in chakra stuff in there, don't you? Yeah.
I like to throw a little bit of everything, because what I want it to be like is I try to think like, you know, again, we were talking about this before we started recording, that like tarot is such a wonderful intersectional sort of tool in terms of anything that you are interested in terms of spirituality or the esoteric. You can overlay that onto the system of the tarot, which is really freaking cool. So it becomes this convergent points of all of these different interests. And I was like, well, what does that mean for us as people? And how do we make that useful? Well, once we start seeing the correspondences or the similarities or the patterns, then we are able to say like, here's the information we can extract from that. And here is all this different information. It's a little tasting of everything that might be, you know, relevant to you. But, you know, it's not meant to like, you know, not everything is going to like be helpful to you at that moment. But I don't know. I just feel like that's an interesting concept.
More of a like reflection of a bigger picture.
Yes.
That's what I always take from that, instead of just this little minor thing that somebody's, but that's kind of where I was going with it. It would be hard for me to do those kind of really short readings, because my favorite kind of stuff is like past life readings or law of attraction stuff, or stuff that I think is like super important, like bigger picture kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
rather than what's going on. And that's just like my own perception, because I know whatever's happening in your life is the most important thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes that revolves around a love relationship or whatever.
Yeah.
But to be able to put it out there in like 3 minutes or 4 minutes would be extremely difficult.
You know, I totally understand that. I felt very similar to that when I first started. I was like, I don't really know if I'm going to do love readings or whatever. But you know what I realized about love readings is that most people will go through their most transformative moments, whether positive or negative, via love or relationships, sexual or romantic connections. Okay. So if something has that much power and influence over all of our behaviors and decisions, basically from puberty and beyond, right? Maybe there is something to that. Also, it's kind of remembering that sometimes people can only see the aspect of something that they have their focus or attention on, like you were talking about where you focus your attention. Well, if you just gently encourage someone, you say, let me tell you the truth. Maybe this person does love you, but then you ask the further question of, but what does that really mean to you in terms of what's happening in your life? How is that helping you get to where you need to be? Or how is that working with you? How is that serving both of you together? And if it's not, then maybe you put that on pause for a second and let's talk a little bit about this freaking life path number that I just saw for you. Let's talk a little bit about that and like how that relates, and we can relate it into the sometimes it's like we want to force, I feel like sometimes we do kind of like want to force people to accept wisdom and knowledge the way that we want them to accept it.
You're right.
But the truth is like, spirit and God or source gives us the luxury of communicating with us in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't blame people for being focused and fixated, but that's part of what your job, or what I feel like part of the job of a good reader is to help people, expand what they're, what they're focused on, expand what they see as possible. And once you do that, I just have found that like, I am grateful. I am grateful to witness people go through this process, because it just feels so good watching someone go through this process of expansion, of actual ascension, of actualization, Anyway,
Yeah.
We probably should. How many of these are you going to ask me? Just I'm like, I need to like go to the bathroom. Or, like,
Well, there was a few. We don't even have to really get into. What is your life path number?
my life path number is 6, which is
Okay.
like I think it's like the meaty. It's like the I have it written down too. It's the responsible one, and the server also can usually be about like humanitarian or like being in service to people. It's the 6, which is the Venus energy. So trying to bring things into balance, trying to account. But sometimes I think 6s have problems, because what 6s are supposed to be, you're supposed to be like you're like temperance, okay? One side, and you're measuring them. Sometimes we lose ourself in that, okay? And then it's just like we just become like, there's 2 energies, and we're not actually involved or engaged, or I think I lost where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you lose track of yourself and your own needs because you're so busy trying to always keep balance and everything, right?
Yes. And also sometimes you can feel like you don't have the human right to just like have a bad day and be like, you know what, you need to find someone else to solve your problems today, or you need to find someone else to empathize with you or whatever. But it's like, I feel like a lot of the burnout that happens with people in the spiritual community is because people are they're not following their own advice, and they're not practicing the actual self-care, the boundaries, being realistic about the energy levels that you can put into something. So what I try to do is like when I'm creating things or when I'm creating a schedule, I try to basically make it so that I can do it with like where basically it might be a little bit of a challenge, but I can do it pretty easily. Okay. Because, the magic is in the consistency, so you want to make something that is like, has substance, but at the same time, it has to be replicatable. And what is, if you do things without consistency, then it's like, oh shoot.
It's the same like building a business. It's the same like somebody that makes handcrafted items. If you're not pricing your items appropriately, it's not something that you can maintain, because you cannot always guarantee that you're going to be at your peak at all moments.
Yes. It's not sustainable. Yeah.
No. exactly. I
I
get
think
it.
that's why it's so important for spiritual workers for us to first establish our own boundaries, really go through that deep, dark ass shadow work to do all the things that are necessary. In some cases, to watch your, to surrender your life to the chaos of the unknown and whatever's going to happen, so that you are in a better position to empathize and to actually, and not just say empathize like, oh, I feel for you, but to actually say, no, I actually feel for you, because like, I know what that shit feels like,
Yeah, I get it. Yes. So what is your current favorite deck right now?
I'm going to show it to you. It's the Golden Hydrangea deck by Lemon Tinted on Instagram. And the artist's name is Isabel. It's just like this beautiful minimalist deck. It actually doesn't have any numbers, which might be a drawback for people that are learning tarot. What I would say, if you are learning tarot though, and you want to, basically could be like your flashcards almost, because then you're like, what is the number? And then you start memorizing things, okay? It's really important, I feel like, because I ended up memorizing a lot from the tarot just because it was like just forcing myself not to, I don't know. I would like think about it. If I couldn't remember, then I would look it up, and then I made the charts, and it kind of like through repetition, it kind of just seeps in. But I feel like this deck is just so beautiful. I love how minimalistic it is. It's just like, I don't know. Anyway.
It's definitely easy on the eyes, especially if you are doing a lot of readings.
Yes.
All those colors can be draining, I would imagine.
Yes.
I don't do readings like that, but I can imagine it would.
I also find that for channeled messages versus like actual just readings, I feel like for channeled messages, the more minimal a deck is, the better. Because even though you would think that it'd be the opposite, because you think, oh, this is going to jumpstart my memory, whatever, sometimes it's just better to be able to look at something almost like staring at a wall and be able to project onto it what you're seeing. Okay. So that's why I do like, I would say like everyone, I suggest having at least one Marseille deck, just because a lot of the times, all of the symbolism, like especially for the minor arcana, it's just pips and stuff. So it doesn't have all that visual. So if you're someone who maybe even sometimes you could get a little distracted by the pictures, or if you feel like someone, maybe you, it's hard to focus in sometimes on a specific, there's too much going on. I would definitely try one of those decks, or a minimalist deck. It will help you channel and focus in a lot better, I think.
That's why I use, personally for myself, that's why I use spreads to help keep me focused on what I'm supposed to for each card. Yeah. Because, I'm still newer. It'll be 2 years, like in August, I think.
Oh, great.
Or October. I don't remember. It's one of them, okay? But it'll be 2 years. So I am still really much in the phase of using the spreads, because when I just put them out, lay them out, I just see so many different things that run through options, and it's like the 7 of Cups. That's what goes off in my head.
That is so funny, because like, what I found, it was almost like, when I don't know if you had experience when you're at work and they make you role play something when you're training. I always had a lot of trouble doing the role play because I just couldn't take it as seriously. I found that it was the same way with tarot, that once I actually just forced myself, I'm just going to do a reading, I'm just going to do a live reading, or I'm just going to do this, it actually became a lot easier for me to focus in that sort of thing. But I can definitely tell that's why spreads are so effective, because whatever's going to help you in that situation and how you're going to interpret the cards, how you're going to bring out those messages. But I do feel like a lot of the times I would say a good exercise, and in terms of like being a fluid reader, would really be every night, just shuffle the cards, pull like 2 or 3 cards a night, and just see, what does this combination say to me? Okay. Then you start, once you start seeing those, if you start recognizing like patterns or keep note of patterns, then you can say, okay, well, I have this association with this energy or this visual or this sort of overarching energy. And then once you tap into that energy, then you can get more specific. I also kind of feel like it's one of the reasons why, I think some people might think it's a little ostentatious that I may have, like, I use 44 decks. I use 44 decks specifically because of the number, because numerology life path number 44, it's the master life path number, is of these the healer. Okay, it's basically the spiritual healer. 33 is the spiritual teacher. So I have another part of the subsections. It's 10 of them are subsectioned off from the 33. Also, or from the other cards, but I like numerology. But also, I thought about it this way: if you can classically condition yourself to do things. So, for instance, if you play a little sound at, before you do a certain thing, you could eventually, when you hear that sound, you will put yourself in that state of mind or that state of focus. All right. Well, why does it have to be different with a deck? So when I have dedicated decks, it's like when I pick up a deck, it's like I know my subconscious just knows I'm picking up a guidance deck. So I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for guidance on what? On this specific theme. If I pick up one of my alternative cartomancy decks, then I know I'm going to read for cusper energy. And it's just like through repetition, though, it's almost like classically conditioning yourself to make that association when you see that deck or when you feel that deck. Now, that's not going to work for everyone. Not everyone has like either the luxury, the time or patience, or the desire to have more than one or a couple of decks or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, look for ways where you can, that's the importance of ritual before tarot practice, because it becomes part of that conditioning your subconscious mind to get in the zone. And then, and when you pull those cards like randomly every night and you're just looking at combinations, not trying to do a reading, just saying, if I had to say in one sentence what's these cards mean together, you start there. And every night you just do these sentences. Then when you're actually doing readings, the sentences become into phrases and the phrases come into paragraphs and the paragraphs turn into whatever. So that's been effective for me. Hopefully that will work for someone as well.
So what would you suggest when, because I do actually do that quite frequently. I mean, I do readings all the time, every day. So if you get 3 different cards, do a 3-card, and you look at it and you can see 10 different scenarios in the 3 cards that you're laying out. What would you suggest in order to
focus in? You mean like
in order to know which one is actually the correct one?
Oh, I mean, to be honest with you, if you think about it, anything that's coming to you is relevant. Okay. So basically think about it more like you're getting an influx, an overabundance of information. Okay.
That's
and then,
and
then it's like, you just have to choose. You just have to choose one. You can choose one randomly at first. And later, as you become more confident, you'll start to make those decisions more consciously, but your subconscious will let you know, like it's just bringing up all the associations. So once, and that's actually a good practice in itself. Pull the cards and just pick one, pick one thing and just focus in on it. And part of the exercise, the meditation will be to block out all of the other possibility scenarios and energies. Now, what I like to do in my readings is I like to first go over one, like I'll close off all options, but then I'll go back and I'll say, well, let's look at it from another angle. So one thing that you can do instead of trying to get all the different perspectives at once, just think about it as like a list, just go through one at a time. And the ones that are the most important, they're going to stick in your mind and they're going to come to your attention. The ones that maybe like are more like secondary or more like whatever, they're going to sink into the background. So maybe just the practice of forcing yourself to pick a narrative, pick one sentence and just go with it. Yeah. Okay. And then you could go back and you could say, what's another way we could look at it? What's another way we could look at it? And that would actually benefit you too, because no matter what cards you get or what the situation is for the person you're reading for, you have something that, you can key in, connect with them on that.
Yeah. Because I will say I have done it before where I was doing live readings, and it was usually the second impression that I got in it that resonated with people, not my first impression.
Yeah. Well, your first
one okay, well, I need to be second guessing I'm like, I'll be seeing it and then I go, well, wait a minute. I'm changing my mind here. And then I go, that's the one.
You know what? Never underestimate the power of just saying, oh, okay, well, that's where my intuition was taking me. But you know what? You're telling me that that's not where you want to, that's not what we're going to explore. That's not where you want to go with it. Let's go ahead and we'll reground and let's see if, go with whatever does work. But just realize that like sometimes maybe your first one, it could be you're nervous. Your first one could be it's what's most relevant to you. And most of the time, even if we don't think about that consciously, that is usually what we're going to go for first. It's okay. I mean, you can be wrong. You don't have to be, you could be wrong about, and that's the other thing. I try to like stay away from using language like definitely, like whatever, like very definitive language.
And that's the thing though. Sometimes people, God bless them, seriously, when they get on here, they're trying to be supportive and you don't know. I mean, I'll start off like, okay, this. And I'm not getting any feedback, and then I go, well, wait a minute. This is actually what I see. I'm changing my mind because maybe like another card came down or whatever. And I was like,
Yes.
But I feel like when I actually have an actual card, what the card is supposed to represent, then it channels it easier for me.
Sure.
You think that there's just some people that are better just with having something to focus it on? I mean, people that maybe have like ADHD or something like that.
Yeah.
Instead
I would definitely say that's
of using like line reading.
Yeah. Well, I would say that's kind of, I mean, yeah, I would definitely say some people definitely do better with a focus. I would say that one thing that I found is if you have something, if you have like ADHD, my divine masculine, my fiance actually has ADHD. ADHD, they do usually do like self-stimming stuff. So it's like stuff where they like tap their feet or they'll move their legs or they just feel like fidgety. One thing I found that might help you focus in is shuffling the deck as you're talking, shuffling the deck, because then it keeps your hands busy, and because your hands are busy, kind of keeps the conscious, it's like the conscious mind always wants to interrupt. It's like the subconscious mind is a very lovely, gentle speaker, and the conscious mind is like, but what about this? You know what I mean? So you gotta placate it. You have to like help the conscious mind to be entertained, to be engrossed or immersed in routine or ritual or whatever's happening here, so that you and your subconscious can actually and your intuition can actually just have a conversation. Also, I mean, I'm using more neutral or secular terms. I personally do believe that God or spirit or, source, I'm not saying I'm talking, I'm not saying I know definitively what that energy wants or that sort of thing, but I do feel like I feel that presence. And sometimes I do feel like it will like pull me to a certain thing, or it will pull my attention to a certain thing. But I don't know. It's like there is absolutely no way. There would be no way. Oh shoot! Sorry. I just looked at speaking of ADHD. I was just looking at the chat. I did see someone saying they had ADHD.
And see, that's how I get too. I can be talking, be on a subject. Somebody will say something else, and it's like, okay. Somebody put something on Facebook about cleaning, right? trying to clean. So they start to organize this. Then they see that this was done. So they went to do that. And then they seen that one of those things was wrong. So they went to do that. That's me. Okay. It takes me all day to do one little project that I thought I wanted to do. And as far as organizing, because then you realize, oh, this needed organizing too. And I can't finish this until this one's done. And then down the rabbit hole we go.
Well, it's when you realize like it is like a holistic system. It's like everything. Organization is actually organization in itself. I actually, one of my jobs that I had back in the day, one of my first jobs was for Franklin Covey, which is for the daytime, the time management company. Also, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And to be honest, like, time management is magic. Okay, if anyone wants to experiment with time management, it is magic, because it just like an organization is magic, because you start to realize it takes an overarching view of everything in order to know where its place is going to be. But I think in some ways, I feel like what you're describing also is kind of like what you're describing about your tarot reading. Like
exactly
as well.
Maybe because of being a Virgo, or because of having that Virgo energy, I have to have organization even in my readings in order to feel like I am being as productive as I can be.
I get that.
So that it's focused, because it's that way with anything that I'm doing, even in my organization around here, my crafting, whatever. I feel like it can't be chaos.
Yeah.
It's got to be, this is what this is for.
Have you thought, Rachele, of maybe just keeping like a little sticky pad note or a journal or something while you're doing the reading, so that you can just jot down a keyword or a note for yourself, so that in case you get lost or you're getting overwhelmed, you could just go back to that keyword. You could also maybe like draw like a little flow chart. So let's say that, like, you know, you have your main thing here, and then it's like you're going here, you're like possibility 1. All right. Then you could be like, well, you know what? I'm actually feeling something else. So let's draw a little thing, possibility 2. And then you can kind of put a keyword, you know what I mean? Like you can make some sort of chart or some sort of note or some sort of, because I use a lot of outlines and stuff. I don't usually do it like in the middle of the reading, but that might actually be something that could help you in terms of staying focused. And also, just as you get used to that, as more and more consistency, more and more confidence, you won't have to use that as a tool as much as you gain that fluidness, that confidence. Really, reading is about confidence. Okay, reading is just like most of life in terms of communicating with other people. Reading is a lot about just saying, here's the perspective, the truth that I have to offer. It doesn't have to be your truth. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but let me at least give birth to this. Let me manifest this. Let me tell you this. Let it come to life, okay? And if it's not your thing, that's totally cool. We'll re-examine, we'll look at it from a different angle or different perspective. But I think for you, it would be helpful, just pick one and stay with it, then move on to the next. Okay, think about it more like a checklist than like a flow chart outline.
If I could do that. I am really bad at journaling. I really don't like to journal, so
I get that.
suck at it. So I would like to say, sure, I would do that, but honestly, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Just wouldn't. And that's why I do spreads. That's what I was saying. That's why I do spreads, because that's what works for me. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That is awesome.
All right. So we should probably move on. I mean, oh my goodness gracious.
I know. I'm so sorry. We're just like,
so you're working with 44 different decks. That's excellent. Would you say you're a collector? And if so, how many decks do you have? Do you know?
It's 44, but I'm very if I'm gonna have any other decks, I have to get rid of another deck in order to replace it. So that's I'm kind of like, isn't like Marie Kondo. I kind of like just like put a arbitrary hard limit on it, or well, wasn't arbitrary because it was the numerology, but I just put a hard limit on it, so that way if I want another deck, I have to figure out what deck I'm going to gift to someone else. And I do, some people don't like to use used decks, but I like to gift my decks that I feel like we've completed our work, and I want to pass it on to someone that I also feel like is going to learn from it, or is going to connect with it, or they're going to benefit from it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think it's really cool that you do the 44, the 33, the 22, all the symbolism, even in that stuff. That's amazing.
It helps me to remember things. It's like these little things behind the scenes that actually help me feel more connected to the reading. And I don't know, I just feel like, at the end of the day, like, no one can really tell you how to read tarot correctly. No one can tell you how to intuit things correctly, okay? You just go with whatever is happening inside of you, go with it. Maybe, if you're like, oh, well, I wish maybe like I had a better context for this. So maybe it's like you do some reading and you bring in some more materials. But after a while, when you bring all these things together, it's like, I don't know.
It brings in even more to the table.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. Oh, Leanne says, my journals are a collection of other people's words. Yeah.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. Do you do like any like visuals, or is it just writing?
She says, oh, that's a good tip, me, note taking. Yeah. Like me, and I'm grateful. Yeah.
Thank you so much, friend.
I know a lot of people that just are so good at their journaling. And I mean, I say that, but I do make notes and stuff like that, right?
You're like, well, I have all these notebooks, but
I mean, but these are like things that easy for me to like grab really quick.
Yeah.
Like bigger things, not readings and stuff like. Although I do have like a weekly reading, but I do like my other readings more just for like ask a question or something like that, and then just draw one card, and I'll go, oh, all right. But when it's like, if I'm just trying to do like a big long thing. It's just like, oh my God, where do I start? I don't, there's just so much stuff, but okay. So
I was going to suggest on Instagram, the Fringe End. They do these really beautiful tarot journal sort of like illustrations and stuff. What they'll do is they'll draw like the shape for the card, and they can just place the card, and then they draw all of this stuff around it. It's actually super cool. Like, I think they're called the Fringes End Tarot. If anyone wants to check them out on Instagram.
very cool. Thank you. So would you say that your reading style has changed? Well, first of all, how long have you been reading?
Well, I have been reading since I was a teenager, except I only did it really for myself and for very select personal friends, just because one thing that people don't tell you, like, it's really awkward where some situation, like in my weekly, sometimes like all these things will come up, childhood wounding, like all of this stuff, right? Like, or it'll just be like sexual fantasies, like all these things will come up. So it's like when I'm reading for someone I know, it's a little like, I don't know. It's like, I don't necessarily like doing it for people that I know, because it's like, maybe you're not ready to have this conversation with me, or maybe we were never supposed to have this conversation about something. Yeah. But it wasn't until I started this channel, which was on the 20th last year, that I really buckled down to memorize all the correspondences, to memorize all of the, a lot of information. I've actually spent a lot of time doing a lot of research. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Marge. Yeah, a lot of the research and stuff, like, crap, I think I'm sorry that I keep like flubbing out at the end when I'm like getting distracted.
Not a problem. Welcome to my world. It happens to me all the time. So yeah, that's cool though. So do you have any like daily ritual? Oh, no. Has your actual reading style changed then since the beginning?
Yes, it definitely has. And the funny thing is, I mean, I would feel like it hasn't changed so that I fundamentally read in a different way. I just found that, again, it's like building layers, and it's expanded since then. And a lot of that has happened because originally, I was like just so focused on like, what is the meaning of this card? What is whatever? It wasn't until later when I got comfortable with that, I actually memorized it, that I was actually able to start introducing things like more advanced correspondences, or like all of the stuff that was like, that ended up being super helpful, and which I feel like ends up being very helpful for other people a lot of the times in the readings. All of that was stuff that I just kind of, it started to fall into place as I was doing more readings, and also as I was, doing more readings recorded. And also I started doing personal readings, like free personal readings as well. I put that on pause until August, just because like I have a lot of stuff that's going on. And also I just felt like I wanted to focus a lot on, I was changing things on my channel. Like I was gonna like do the new live series that I was doing. I've got a lot of projects and stuff going in. I'm so sorry.
So it like stops you from, you didn't want to keep on doing the free ones because of how much that pulls away from all the stuff that you've got working. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the other stuff too, yes. But the truth is I actually don't accept any money for any of my services. And that's by choice. It's not because I don't think I don't have valuable services. It's partly because I care about the messages getting out to people. I actually do feel like I am doing the work that I'm being called to do. And to be honest with you, it's like, I don't want to ever give the impression to any other tarot readers or channels that I'm here to compete with you. I'm really here to help collect information, to facilitate, to maybe like have good conversations, to have a laugh, to help you meet other people that are also very passionate about this art and this craft that you've put your lot in with. Okay.
You are such a giving person. I was telling you that before this whole thing started, that I mean, beyond the fact that your readings are friggin' phenomenal, and I've told you that before, I can't stress this enough for people to go and check out your channel, because your readings are like mind blowing. All the different things that you bring into it, the leveling, that is like what I want to be when I grow up, kind of thing. Okay, I'm serious. It's like phenomenal. But that's what I love. I love seeing not just the meanings. But for me, I had to start with the meanings.
Yeah.
That's just my character. I had to start with the meanings and then build on it from there. Yeah, seeing like if it's all bright yellow, does that mean that you either need to work on your confidence or, or that you are a very confident person? Is it your solar plex? I mean, stuff like that. And then astrology, trying to work with the astrology and all that. But I love how giving you are to other people and promoting other people all the time. So
well, I mean,
Instagram.
For the spiritual community, if we can't get along together, if we can't work together, if we can't actually support each other and live by the practices that we are basically preaching, then what good are we? Okay, like that makes us hypocrites. So us more than anyone, it is imperative for us to understand how to work together, how to collaborate, how to bring abundance in for everyone, and to not compete with each other. And the thing is, I understand some people, they use this as their means of supporting themselves, and that is beautiful and that is valid. And I do feel like sometimes, sometimes our ancestors or karma or whatever, it does ask us, it asks us to discover our value and to charge for it. Okay. Yeah. In my particular case, I think it's probably attached to karma, probably attached to my personality, but that just is not, that's just not what I got lucky to be in a situation where I don't need to do this. I don't need to do it for money. And then what I realized is like, well, I could leave it open for donations, but I would much rather channel anything that someone feels like donations. I'd rather have you buy something for yourself or take care of yourself. Do something nice for yourself. Take yourself out to freaking dinner, like go whatever. But or donate to charity, pick your favorite charity or I leave all my channel subscriptions public. So if you want to browse through my channel subscriptions, listen to other readers. Okay. I specifically handpick a bunch of readers that have very different perspectives. So the first one that you check out, maybe it's not going to be your cup of tea, but I promise you there's someone there that's going to speak to you. And if you really want to pay for services, pay one of those people that I'm advertising, pay one of those people that's in the community, because they deserve it. They deserve it.
It's also good that you are in a place where you don't have to worry about that. But I would hope that you also don't limit yourself in the future if, God forbid, something did happen where you had to charge. It is okay to charge for your services.
I know.
Out there.
I feel like me personally, I would probably be more likely to just get a job and also do this at the same time.
I think that would be a way.
The other thing is that the flip side of not accepting money is also a certain freedom of control, a freedom of I set the expectations, I set the tone. And why? Because it's free, because you're not paying me, because I don't want us to have for me, my work is not about having a client relationship with someone. My work is about trying to speak to you on a primordial level. I'm trying to receive and speak to the essence of you. I don't know. For me, it's just I like to keep the two separate because sometimes it's, I don't know. I just feel like that's what I've been called to do or asked to do.
Yeah. And if you're in the place where you can do that comfortably, by all means.
Yes.
But also, just so you know, if people are paying you, they're still paying you for that same reason, for what your message is that you're receiving. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
That's why you should do your research before you go and get a tarot reading done from anybody, in my opinion, because you want to make sure that you're going to be compatible with the person that's reading for you.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
I think sometimes for readers, though, I think readers underestimate the beauty of being a little more selective with, who you're going to give those readings to, how you're going to put your time out, because a lot of the time, if you're just going by straight money, it's like a lot of people have money, but is that going to be the person that's going to resonate with your message? Is this going to be a message where they're going to pay you and then suddenly they're just going to go to another reader and pay that reader again because they didn't get the answer that they wanted from you? There's a lot of variables there.
Yeah, that does happen. Let's see. Do you do any daily rituals?
I do. I actually listen to I personally, not everyone is into them. I do listen to subliminals, but I try to be very careful with the subliminals that I listen to, because think about it, you're trying to like reprogram your subconscious. Someone that I would definitely suggest if you're curious or you're interested is the name of the channel is Miss Subliminals, or I think it's Miss Subliminals. If you go to my channels, you'll see it's usually one of the first ones that you'll see listed. But the reason I like this person is because they are so thoughtful about the subliminals that they make. For example, I was like looking through some of the ones that could be like more unhealthy, such as like they have weight loss ones. Well, if you read it, it actually says, the creator says that this will only bring you to your ideal healthy weight. So if you are trying to get under your ideal healthy weight, such as if you are dealing with eating disorder, if you're dealing with something like that, this is not going to be effective for you, and please don't use subliminals in that way. So I thought that just by saying that was awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool. Also, I do pray every day. I mean, I pray usually when I first wake up, and it's very simple. I just pray that the messages that I'm going to receive are actually going to be helpful to someone. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, after I finish all my messages, I have my own prayer that I pray, which is basically, I usually say, gratitude to the divine, respect to the primordial, the forces of day and night coming together to form the whole. Thank you, spirit champions. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, spirit family. Thank you, divine counterpart. Thank you, twin flame. Thank you, higher self. Gratitude to the divine, to you, and all of creation. So when I end with the gratitude to you, gratitude to the divine, to you, and all of creation, that's actually my amen of my own personal prayer that I say on a daily.
That's awesome.
Also, mostly daily, if I'm just like, because sometimes I just like shuffling my cards, either daily, but at the very most, or at the very least weekly, I will shuffle and work with and recharge and cleanse all of my decks. Now, some people, you can do however you want. One thing that I have found that helps me attune myself to my decks and my decks to me is I actually will put on music and I will dance with my decks in my hand. Yeah, because I just feel like, it's like people, you figure out what's your chemistry going to be like, how you're going to work together, like this sort of thing.
I love it.
All right, that's it for.
I just got a picture of you just, doing your thing. You
gotta like,
and do you dance differently with different decks? Yes. Oh. Yeah. I mean, that definitely reminds me of somebody that is so. Symbolism is huge for you, isn't it? Symbolism is everything.
It is. And actually, I was lucky enough that when I was one of the times I was in college, because I've tried to go to college several times, and as much as I love all of the stuff, it's like I'll end up with like all of these electives and all of the things that I find fascinating, and then it's like, oh, I've got 3 years worth of math that I'm probably never going to actually take those classes, so I don't know if I'm going to get a degree.
Yeah, I get that.
Sorry, what were we saying just before that? I'm sorry.
Oh, just about how symbolism was so, in everything.
So one of the times I went to college, one of my instructors or professors, he introduced us to Joseph Campbell. Now, Joseph Campbell is amazing. Joseph Campbell is a comparative anthropologist and also specifically studied mythologies. Now, I'm going to be honest, it's a bit dated. It's from, he's an older gentleman. He passed away quite some time ago, but he's an older gentleman, maybe like some people might not like his energy or style. But one thing that I can tell you about him is that he was very committed to seeing, in terms of mythology and in symbolism, all the things that, instead of looking at what was different, what is the same, what is universal, what is related. Okay. He also did the hero's journey, the hero with 1,000 faces. I think George Lucas actually used part of that idea in writing screenplays and stuff, writing a good screenplay. There's actually people in film will actually study Joseph Campbell, because Joseph Campbell will teach you how to tell a good story, because he's talking about the myths, which are the universal stories, you know. Also,
Right.
his theories are amazing in terms of how, you know, why is there so much unrest? It's because, you know, we have separated ourselves from the rituals that we used to have. And because we no longer have those ritual rites of passage, because we no longer have those sorts of ways to anchor ourselves into the community, we're looking for that. And that's why we're restless. And that's why we become vulnerable, because we're looking for ways to reenact these very primordial or primitive or primal sorts of rituals that we engage with together, that told us when we were part of the tribe, that told us when we were an adult, that told us when we were, you know, like we had elevated to a different status or whatever. So I feel like that's, you know, a lot of time we're looking for that. Anyway,
Yeah, that does make
Joseph
sense.
Campbell. Joseph Campbell. All right.
I have heard of him before. So do you remember your dreams? Are dreams a huge part of, you know, what you do?
Sometimes, you know what, I'll be honest, like I don't usually get dreams where I'm like, I'm going to do a reading about that. My dreams are typically, I kind of feel sometimes, and I'm doing more research because it's possible that it might be true, but sometimes when I'm dreaming, it's so vivid, and sometimes I do feel like I'm actually going somewhere else. I feel like I'm actually like exploring something else, or a different, almost like dimension, or like whatever. I typically will remember dreams if it's something that's that detailed and involved, but you know, sometimes there's dreams that I just can't remember either. But a lot of my dreams tend to be like, I just feel like I'm a different person that's doing something else. Like one of them was like colonizing space. Like, I don't know why, I just kept getting this like sort of like and I would go back to this like space colony, and like sometimes a lot of my dreams, like if they stick, they'll be repetitive. So it's almost like every time I go into the dream, it's like I get some other, I don't know, like
Detail of it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're talking another life. Maybe. See, I don't think of life
That's
or
true, yeah.
lives as linear.
Okay, that's interesting.
I see them as different frequencies or whatever that could all be lived at the same time, right?
Okay, I get that.
When we are in our dream state or astral traveling or however you want to call it, sometimes I think that we could be popping back into a previous life, or being a watcher of maybe that life or something. I think dream work is really amazing. But the fact that you keep on going back to this one thing, but then getting in a little detail of this and a little detail of that and a little detail of that, all in the big picture, there's something to it. I feel like, don't you feel like there's definitely something to it?
I definitely feel like there's something to it. I feel like, you know, of course, like when we're talking about intuition that's immaterial, the immaterial talks to us the most directly through the intuition, but it also communicates through the subconscious. It also communicates through our instincts as well. Okay, you know, again, it's just like different depending on what the context is or whatever. We could get messages from any of them, but when you're in a dream state, that is very effective because of the fact of, you know, your brain waves and how your brain waves are, when they're below consciousness, it's almost like you get into a hypnotic state, or you can get into like a I don't know, where you're more receptive, you can receive more information is what I'm getting. The other thing is like, because your conscious mind is like put out, you know, is kind of distracted with the sleep, whatever happens during the sleep, it's like shoot,
You have like less inhibitions.
yes,
It's more like primal. It's more
yes,
like on a primal base, right?
yes.
So,
But you have to be careful, because sometimes dreams can also, it doesn't all have to be, you know, good stuff, or it doesn't all have to be meaningful stuff, because some of it really is just like crap that your subconscious is like still processing, even if you like whatever. So that's why it's like, I try to see what like the continuity of the dream. I try to figure out what aspects seem really necessary to the dream and what aspects kind of seem like, okay, well, it's a hot dog, okay, whatever. Like, you know, you're like, okay, thanks.
all right, I must really want a hot dog if I'm dreaming about hot dog.
I'm like, I'll get that
one yesterday with that hot dog.
Have you ever? I've only lucid dreamed once, okay? And let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about my so I was eating a truck chocolate covered strawberry, and I just was like, you know what, I really wish this was white chocolate. And then it was, and then I started freaking out because I'm like, I'm dreaming, and then I woke up.
You want to know what? I had one, my first one, I was looking out a window, there was a fence, and in my dream I was thinking, I wonder, because there was graffiti on the fence. I'm like, I wonder what it would look like if it was in this color. And then it changed. I was like, no shit.
Yes.
I realized at that point that I was dreaming, but I had one like maybe 6 months ago was my last one. That one was like when I was 18, right? So I hadn't had one in like 25, 30 years. Well, 20, 25. Okay. It was me in a house, not even my house. And I was decorating in my house, right? Trying to figure out, okay, what furniture do I want here? And then all of a sudden, Joanna Gaines, do you know who she is? She's like on HGTV, and I just love her. She's a decorator. She's like there, and I'm like, hi, Joanne. So this is what I want in the house. I'm just like, well, seeing how I'm dreaming, I want this, I want it in that color, and all of a sudden it just started showing up, right?
That's amazing.
You would think it would be some sort of great, like, I'm lucid dreaming. What can I find out about myself? No, it's just about decorating my damn house. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also, just goes to show what a wonderful exercise of self-discipline and practice that people that are actually able to consistently lucid dream, that's awesome. One thing, though, that did turn me off or scared me about lucid dreaming was I was, doing research, and then I started finding steps like, if you get stuck in your lucid dream, and I was like, ooh, like, that's possible? What the F?
That's like about the equivalent of your parents telling you, if you make that face and someone taps your back while you're making that face, your face is going to freeze like that.
But you know what? I stopped making the face just in case.
So did I.
I know. It's the Capricorn vibe. We got it, girl. I got it. I feel you.
All right. Do you work with crystals?
I don't usually work with a lot of stones. I will say that I do have this weird attraction to moss agate. When I was younger, I actually it felt like it told me, I'm your power stone. And I was like, excellent. I'm wearing a little flower. It's like moonstone. I love moonstone. I like turquoise a lot just because turquoise is amazing because it's so versatile. Actually, turquoise is one of the few gemstones that I know that stimulates all of the chakras. It can balance and stimulate all of the chakras. It also is very good for the throat chakra, which actually makes sense because then it's like, everything comes into alignment, and then what is the purpose of that? So you can live and speak in your truth, exactly. Which I really like. But I definitely want to learn more. So if you have any guests or, whatever, I'll probably look for that gemstone question. But also I just feel like it's such a vast sort of, you got to like explore that space. Also, I feel like, I love the fact that like, I don't know, it does, even though it's like, it's a gem or it's a rock or it's whatever, it's supposed to be like totally like inanimate. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it almost feels more like you're learning how to do a partnership. I think sometimes we can have this sort of mentality with like gemstones and that sort of thing. Like, it's like, we're going to put them to work for us. But maybe like, if you think about it, like maybe in interacting with that piece of that collective gemstone or whatever, maybe through those associations energetically, maybe the collective of the gemstone essence or whatever, maybe it helps to enhance it or strengthen it or like, helps it to like vibrate a different vibration or something. I don't know.
The way you do stuff is so funny. The collective blah, blah.
I mean, I do. I mean, I don't know if I just do believe that like that there are all of these collectives. We're part of one big collective, but it has so many different subsections. It's like taking a survey, it's like, or like a survey with a whole bunch of people. If you haven't watched that show, it's like 100 Humans. Oh my gosh, you have got to see that show. So first of all, sometimes the scientific, the experiments in themselves, they can be a little bit nebulous in terms of like the logic they're using in order to do the testing. But one thing that I absolutely loved about it was seeing this group of 100 people. They all volunteered. They were all like together in these activities, doing these activities all the time. So after a while, even though they all had numbers, they would just like built these sort of connections and affinities and these relationships. The subcontext of that show is amazing, because what you get to see is what happens when a group of people that are complete strangers, when you go through all these things of like going through these exercises together, being open and vulnerable together, answering questions honestly together, the sense of solidarity is just beautiful. It's amazing, you know, and just to see like people making bonds with people they don't even know what their name is. But then again, that's almost like the internet, right? Like it's like, you know, someone's handle sometimes, you don't always know who they are.
That's true. That's cool though. I like seeing stuff like that. Let's see. Do you have a favorite holiday or Sabbath?
I would say probably my fiance suggested Halloween because that's when our anniversary is. But honestly, I don't know. My joy in holidays is not so much for myself. My joy in holidays is to indulge in the joy of other people. So I love when people get super excited about their favorite holiday, and I want to just be there to be like, yes. But me personally, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not. Weirdly, I'm like, I like to have a good time, but maybe I'm just not as a festive person as as I could be, I guess.
You're such a sweet person. I swear. Yeah, you are. You know, you can see when somebody really smiles, when they're really, really being truthful smile, because they smile with their eyes, and you definitely smile with your eyes. I love it. Do you have a current TV series that you're enjoying?
Yes, I'm watching the second season of Charmed, the reboot. I really loved.
All right.
I really love Charmed, the original show. It's one of my favorite like witches kind of show, Charmed. The reboot, I think it's freaking awesome. I love the way that they made it their own and they are exploring new things, but at the same time, it feels like it's still in the same spirit of like the original show, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. I love that show too.
Oh yeah.
I'm skipping through some of these because it's almost been 2 hours. So
I know. Let me know.
If you could have a deep conversation with anyone during any time period, who would it be and why?
Oh, crap. Conversation with anyone at any time. And you know what? I kind of want to talk to Socrates, because I just want to talk to Socrates, like, and just kind of figure out, like, is he really just that bullheaded he's going to drink that hemlock, or is he a principled person? Because sometimes you can't tell the difference between someone who is principled and someone who is stubborn. Also, you know, I kind of want to talk to Socrates a little bit about, I think that basically like badgering the witness, I feel like that's basically the Socratic method. So I don't know.
And whether or not all stories about him are correct, right? Who the person really was, right?
Well, that's the truth, because really all we know, mostly what we know about him is because Aristotle wrote stuff about him, which is really interesting, right? But a lot of it, we don't actually get a lot of firsthand accounts. But, you know, we do get a sense of this is someone who, you know, I do believe he probably did willingly drink the poison, but I wonder if it's just because, you know, he talks about, I remember him talking about, you know, he drinks the poison because he says, you know, either this is like, either this is going to be like a nap, you know, it's like whatever's going to happen, I'll wake up in heaven, or, you know, this is going to be like a nap. It's like, it doesn't matter. Or it's going to be like, I perish and I go through the long sleep and I'm not going to know anyway. So I feel like someone who thinks that, you know, I definitely think he probably was principled, but I am also curious why he received, I don't know, in some ways it's like maybe he did that also because there seemed to be like unrest between the youth and the older people. And I think in some ways, in his own way, maybe Socrates understood that if he didn't take that hate, that focus, that heat, that responsibility, then maybe it could have escalated or it could have devolved into something else. So that is something that I really admire in that terms of like, maybe, I don't know, maybe he was thinking about a greater principle, purpose, whatever, that wasn't just based on like what we think. Maybe, you know, I'd want to know the real truth, right?
He definitely sounds like a very principled person who definitely, put his money where his mouth was,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Somebody such a strong that's not even a word, philosophical person.
But maybe he was just, you know what? The thing is, though, it's like, I think about it, it's like maybe he was just, we don't know if maybe like he didn't have anything else to live for, really. I mean, sometimes, it's not a big, it is a big deal one way or another to like give up your life, but it really depends how many attachments you have. And the thing is, Socrates was definitely a great teacher, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know how much real enjoyment he was getting out of it. Does that make sense? Where it's like, maybe he felt like driven because he had the type of mind that identified those principles and whatever, but maybe it wasn't like what he actually.
But that's the whole thing. Maybe he was just so driven by knowledge and in obtaining it at whatever cost that came with that. I mean, you find many scientists that will actually, test it on whatever in order to get the answer, no matter what the cost.
But I don't think he was testing. I think that he, well, I mean, I guess it is like a hypothesis, but I don't know. I just, yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to think more about that.
So, do you have a website? Is there a way for people to contact you for readings? You said you do personal readings, right?
Yeah, I do free recorded personal readings. If you go to my channel, if you look at almost any of the weekly readings, it'll have a link in the description box. You can also go to my channel and info playlist, and you'll see a video that has the instructions on how to do the free recorded personal reading. Really, the best way to get in touch with me is typically via my YouTube channel or usually via Instagram. I feel like I'm a lot more social on Instagram and more like, putting the goods up on YouTube. But that is also partly because YouTube sometimes, I don't know, I just feel like YouTube seems like it has all the tools of what should be like a community board and like sort of stuff. But sometimes I feel like it's harder work on YouTube for some reason to feel more interconnected with other creators or other readers.
Mm-hmm. Other than when you're doing lives, you can.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just comment and then you go on and replying to comments.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more difficult, but yes, it's much easier because you can do shorter things, just on Facebook, like you can with Instagram,
Yeah.
and then the personal messaging, which you cannot do on here.
Yeah.
Where everyone else can't see it,
I love Instagram too, because Instagram is like, I love the fact that some people just understand they're going to send you an emoji, you send an emoji back. Some people, they're going to send you like like a paragraph of stuff, whatever it is. I actually love to deal with people socially in terms of, discussing things, but I also am a very busy person because like I have a lot of ideas and like a lot of stuff that I'm doing at the same time. But definitely check me out on Instagram if you want to be more social, and then definitely on the channel if you just, if you're looking for the weekly readings or if you're looking for, what I have to offer on that channel.
Now, Leanne just did put your Instagram in chat. It is down below, and so is that video that you talked about in order to introduce people. That's in my description.
Thank you so much. Wow.
My pleasure.
Oh, and by the way, that Charmed reboot is on Netflix.
It's also on CW.
Oh, cool. Is it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's where it comes from originally, is the CW. And then Netflix re-puts it on there.
Oh, nice.
And it's still a current TV show. So
yes.
If you could go to any event in history, what would it be and why?
I mean, I would probably either go to the birth or the death of the universe. I don't know. I feel like it just, everything else is cool, but I'm just kind of curious what that, especially like the creation of everything, like what that must have, I don't know, what's that's like? Like it's hard to even fathom that. I don't know.
Like I would not have known that by Primordial, right?
Yeah, right. I know, right? Very unpredictable in that way. Okay.
No, that's cool. I love it. That was like one of my answers, was like to go back to the Big Bang and actually see the Big Bang.
Kind of makes me think of wasn't there like an episode of Doctor Who? I think there was an episode of Doctor Who where someone was like witnessing, I don't know, something like that, the birth or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I don't watch Doctor Who, but
I don't usually watch it either,
but there is the Time Machine or whatever by, what is it, Dickens?
oh yeah. I think they made a movie out of that. I think it starred, what was that guy from Memento? It starred
I
that
know
guy.
who you're talking about.
It wasn't very good though. Is this guy something maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know
gotcha.
exactly what you're talking about. I just don't remember his name. So you've been on for a year on YouTube. And what is the direction that you envision for your channel going forward?
Oh yeah, well, I'm definitely going to continue with the content that I have, but I really want to try to figure out. I'm working on projects in the future, how to incorporate more community projects. Also, because from your example and from On the Cusp Tarot, maybe like inviting people onto the channel, especially people. I want to focus mostly on people that are having, they don't have a lot of subscribers, like people that are just starting. Because I feel like Guy Pierce, thank you so much. Because I feel like when I was starting, I got lucky enough that some people were very warm and were very nice and were willing to share the space with me. And I want to make sure that people, they don't feel intimidated and that they feel like they have a place here. If this is what you feel like your calling is, we're going to make room for you. Okay.
Beautiful. I love that, honey.
Thank you so much.
So what do you wish to gain? What do you personally wish to gain from your channel?
Honestly, I just want to feel like I'm actually helping people to get to a place where they are, one, where they realize that it's not about me. I could be anyone, okay? But really being able to witness people's actual sincere, their expansion when it really is helping them, when it really is helping to give them a moment to reground them. Oh, sorry, let me punch my mic. Reground themselves, maybe to be able to think about, consider their options, look at other perspectives and all these things so that, when they go back out into the world, it's like, it just feels a little less chaotic. And not because I'm so wise and I'm doing this, but because, again, like Socrates, and I did like that Libra reading called the Midwife of the Soul, which is basically like to bring forth what is already in someone else, the wisdom and the knowledge and the gnosis, the intuition already in someone else. That is what we're releasing from the call. We're helping people to birth themselves, essentially. And like, that is just a freaking, I don't know what else I could really possibly ask for in terms of that. I also do want to later on branch out. I want to think about ways of helping tarot readers give better customer service. So I have the beginning initial ideas of that. You'll see like a post on Instagram. I also had a poll on my YouTube channel, but in the future, there's going to be a lot more projects like that, helping other readers give better service to their clients, because of the fact that, just because you're a good reader does not mean you're a good customer support or service person. Even if you're an empathetic person or an empathic person, sometimes you're worse at it because you don't know how to say no, or because you don't know how to deal with people that are angry at you and like that sort of thing. So I didn't know if anyone would be interested, but the response was overwhelming that people are interested. So I'm going to try to leverage more of that. Anyway, I don't want to keep
because you said that's what your history is in, like your career history, right?
Yes, it is.
Customer relations.
Yes. So I've done customer support, technical support. I've also done things like volunteer work for United Way 211, for also National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I've done a lot of service, and I love service, to be honest with you. It's like sometimes I'm a machine at work, because it's like I would just go in and I would just close out like a bunch of cases or tickets or like help a bunch of people, just because like I actually believe in the principle of service. Like I really do.
I can definitely see that in you. What about it? I mean, seriously, your character just shines through. I mean, you're definitely you like glow, seriously.
Oh, thank you.
Your face glows, but I mean, it's like, and I do not see people's energy. I don't, but it's like you definitely vibrate. Okay, I can definitely see we all do, but that's not what I mean. I can see like your aura.
It's the Aries Sagittarius, I'm telling you. That combination, it's very powerful. And if you are someone who has that combination, especially if you're someone under the age of 30, don't think that you're alone in wondering what the F you do with this combination, okay? It's gonna, as you experience, as you explore, it's just like anything in life. Things are gonna start making sense. Things will fall into place. Like we were talking about Slumdog Millionaire, where it's like, it will all fall into place. It will all make sense when it's supposed to, when it's gonna help you the most, okay?
My God. Well, that was the last question.
Thank you so much for having me. You're so wonderful.
Right back at you, honey. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it. I tell everyone I love these. I mean, granted, I do it because I also like to help promote other channels. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also doing it for me because it's like being able to sit across from the table of my own home or whatever, and just be able to, to connect with somebody that I probably wouldn't have in my regular day life.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much.
Well, excellent. Maybe in the future, if I do some cross-channel stuff, maybe I will invite you onto my channel then.
Well, I would like that. I would be very honored.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone hanging out with us. And thank you, me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Saturday.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.